Park stood before the Galactic Council chamber and tried to remember how to smile. The neural dampener implanted at the base of her skull hummed softly, keeping her emotions flat and controlled. She had worn it for 12 years now, ever since she arrived at Council Prime. Like every other human in Council space, the device made sure she never felt too much of anything. The chamber was massive, with 12 towering seats arranged in a circle. Each seat held a representative from a different alien species. Some looked like crystals that pulsed with light. Others resembled insects with too many legs. A few were simply clouds of gas contained in transparent suits. They all watched with eyes that held no warmth. Ambassador Park, the voice of High Counselor M, echoed through the chamber. His species looked like living stone, and his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Please present Earth's compliance report. Activated the holographic display. Numbers and charts filled the air between her and the Council. Earth has maintained perfect emotional regulation for 73 years and 4 months, she said. Her voice was steady, neutral. The dampener made sure of that. 0 incidents of uncontrolled rage. 0 violations of the peace treaty. All humans in Council space remain fully compliant with neural suppression protocols. Counselor, a being made of blue crystal, spoke next. His species had sponsored humanity's entry into the Council 3 generations ago. Impressive. When humanity first arrived, we feared your kind would never learn control. Your history showed such violence, such terrible anger. Nodded. She had read the reports from the First Contact War 200 years ago. Humans had fought the Council with a fury that shocked the galaxy. 3 entire armadas destroyed before the ceasefire. The Council had never seen anything like human rage before. They called it primitive, dangerous, uncontrollable. The price for peace had been steep. Every human who wanted to travel beyond Earth's solar system had to accept the neural dampener. The device suppressed strong emotions, especially anger and fear. It made humans calm, reasonable, safe. For 73 years it had worked perfectly. The Council congratulates humanity, M said. You have proven that even the most violent species can be civilized. Bowed her head. Through the dampener's hum, she felt a distant flicker of something. Pride, shame, she couldn't tell anymore. The device had been part of her for so long that she barely remembered what real emotions felt like. The session ended and left the chamber. The corridor outside was empty and quiet. Her footsteps echoed on the metal floor. She pressed her hand to the dampener at the base of her skull. Sometimes she wondered what would happen if she took it off. Would she still be herself? Or would she become something wild and uncontrolled, like the humans from the old war stories? She shook her head. Those thoughts were pointless. The dampener was permanent. Once installed, it could only be removed by death. Ambassador was waiting for her outside. Was Earth's senior representative, a woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. Good presentation, she said. Thank you. But I need to warn you about something. Glanced around to make sure they were alone. Told me that some Council members still don't trust us. They're looking for any excuse to revoke Earth's membership. We need to be perfect, not just good. Perfect. Nodded. I understand. I hope so, because if we lose our seat on the Council, Earth goes back to quarantine. No trade, no travel, no contact with the galaxy. We'd be alone again. That evening, returned to the human district. Council Prime was a massive station, large enough to hold millions of beings. The human district was a small section near the outer ring, where 15,000 humans lived and worked. It was the only place where felt something close to comfortable. Her husband was waiting at their apartment. He worked as an engineer, maintaining the station's systems. How was the presentation? He asked. Fine, we're still compliant. She hung up her jacket and sat on the couch. Through the window, she could see the stars rotating slowly as the station spun. Sat rehearsal, said. The school play is tomorrow night. She's excited. Felt that distant flicker again. Excitement, love. The dampener made everything feel like it was happening to someone else. "I'll be there," she promised. The next night, she sat in the small auditorium and watched her daughter perform. Was 8 years old, with her mother's dark hair and her father's bright smile. She played a character in a story about Earth's history, back before the Council, before the war, before the dampeners. Watched her daughter laugh and run across the stage. For just a moment, the dampener's hum seemed to fade. She felt something warm in her chest, something real and strong. Love for her child, pride in who was becoming. Then the dampener kicked back in, and the feeling faded to a distant echo. After the play, they went to a celebration in the district's main square. Other human families were there, eating food and talking quietly. Everyone was polite, calm, controlled. No one raised their voice. No one argued. No one cried or laughed too loudly. Appeared at the celebration, which was unusual. Council members rarely visited the human district. He approached with his usual glowing presence. "Your daughter performed well," he said. "Thank you. I have news. The Council's educational satellite is accepting applications for a youth exchange program. Students from all member species will spend 3 months learning together. I think would be an excellent candidate." Looked at, they both felt the same muted concern through their dampeners. 3 months away from home. But it was an honor, a sign that the Council trusted humans. "We'll consider it," said. "Please do. It would show the galaxy that humanity is truly integrated with Council civilization." That night, After was asleep and talked. "It's a good opportunity," said. "The Council will see that we trust them with our children." "I know," looked at her daughter's bedroom door. Through the dampener, she felt something small and uncomfortable. Worry, fear. But 3 months is a long time. "She'll be safe. The Council protects all students equally." They submitted the application the next day. 2 weeks later, was accepted. She was one of only 5 human children chosen for the program. On the day left, hugged her daughter at the transport dock. She wanted to feel everything in that moment. She wanted to cry, to hold tight and never let go, to tell her daughter how much she loved her. But the dampener kept everything flat and distant. "I'll message you every day," promised. "Be safe," said. Her voice was calm and steady, even though somewhere deep inside, past the dampener's hum, something was screaming for her to keep her child close. The transport ship pulled away, carrying toward the educational satellite. Watched until it disappeared among the stars. Put his hand on her shoulder. "She'll be fine," he said. Nodded. She believed him. The Council had kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. Nothing would happen to the children on the satellite. She had no way of knowing how wrong she was. 2 weeks passed. Received messages from every day just as promised. Her daughter was happy at the educational satellite. She had made friends with children from other species. She was learning about different cultures and languages. Everything was going well. Then the messages stopped. At first, wasn't worried. The dampener kept her calm. Maybe was busy with classes. Maybe the communication system was having problems. She waited for the next message. It never came. After 24 hours of silence, contacted the satellite's administration. An automated system told her that all communications were temporarily offline for maintenance. She should try again later. Check the communication logs from his engineering station. "There's no scheduled maintenance," he said. His voice was flat but could see tension in his shoulders. Even through the dampeners, worry was trying to break through. "Should we contact the Council?" asked. "I already did. They said they're looking into it." Another day passed. Then another. Went to work, presented reports, attended meetings. Her dampener kept her functioning normally. But something was wrong. She could feel it, like a pressure building behind her eyes. Captain Minyu Lee commanded the Human Security Detachment on Council Prime. He was a serious man in his 40s who had served in Earth's defense forces before coming to the station. When went to see him on the third day, she found his office full of other human parents. "We can't reach any of the children," one father said. "His name was and his son was on the satellite with. The council keeps telling us it's just technical problems, but 3 days, that's not technical problems." Minyu's jaw was tight. "I've been trying to get permission to send a security team to check on the satellite. The council won't allow it. They say it would violate protocols." "Protocols?" Another mother stood up. Her hands were shaking. "My daughter is up there. Something is wrong. I can feel it." Pressed her hand to her dampener. The humming was still there, but it felt different now, like it was working harder than usual. "What can we do?" she asked. "Nothing yet," Minyu said. "We have to wait for the council to act." But the council moved slowly. Another 2 days passed. The official statement was that the satellite had experienced a system failure that knocked out communications. Repair teams were on their way. The children were all safe. Wanted to believe it. Her dampener told her to stay calm, to trust the council, but something was breaking inside her. The pressure behind her eyes was getting worse. On the 6th day, something changed. Was in a council meeting when her dampener made a sound it had never made before, a sharp, high-pitched buzz that made her gasp. The humming stopped for just a second, and in that second she felt everything. Fear, raw, terrible fear for her daughter. It hit her like a physical blow, stealing her breath. Then the dampener kicked back in, pushing the emotion down. But the humming sounded strained now, like an engine working too hard. She looked around the meeting room. Other humans were touching the back of their necks, their faces confused. They were feeling it too. After the meeting, she found in their apartment. He was sitting on the couch, staring at his hands. "My dampener is malfunctioning," he said quietly. "I felt anger today, real anger, just for a moment, but it was there." Sat beside him. "Mine too." They looked at each other. For the first time in years, she could see real emotion in his eyes. Fear. Not the distant echo that the dampener allowed, but actual fear. "Something's happened to them," whispered. "To the children, I know it." That night, alarms rang throughout Council Prime. Ran to the main plaza where humans were gathering. Minyu was there, looking at a holographic display. His face was pale. "What's happening?" demanded. Minyu turned to her. "The satellite just activated its distress beacon." The words hit her like cold water. Distress beacon. That meant emergency. That meant danger. "What kind of emergency?" someone asked. The Minyu said, "Raiders, they've seized the satellite." The plaza erupted in noise. Parents shouting questions, demanding answers. Dampener was screaming now, the hum turning into a painful whine. She could feel emotions trying to break through. Terror, rage, desperation. "How many raiders?" asked, his voice shaking. "Unknown. They're demanding territorial concessions from the council. They say if their demands aren't met, they'll start killing hostages." The word killing made something crack inside. Her dampener buzzed and sparked. For a moment she felt pure, undiluted panic. Then it snapped back into place, but weaker now. An emergency council session was called. All human representatives were required to attend. Found herself back in the great chamber, but this time the council members looked agitated. Even beings that normally showed no emotion were displaying signs of stress. "The situation is serious but manageable," M announced. "They are a rogue faction. They've done this before. We will negotiate for the safe return of all students." "How long will that take?" demanded. "These negotiations are delicate, perhaps 6 to 8 weeks. "Weeks?" A human delegate named stood up. "You're talking about weeks while children are being held hostage." "We must avoid military confrontation," said. His crystal body was pulsing rapidly, a sign of distress in his species. "Violence will only endanger the students further." Looked at the other human delegates. "What if we send in a rescue team, fast and precise, get the children out before the negotiations even matter?" "Absolutely not," M said. his stone face somehow showing anger. That would be an act of aggression. It would violate every term of your membership treaty. If humans engage in unauthorized military action, Earth will be expelled from the Council. But our children will be returned safely through proper diplomatic channels. That is the Council's decision. This session is over. Sat frozen in her seat as the Council members filed out. 6 to 8 weeks. Her daughter held hostage by raiders for 6 to 8 weeks. Her dampener made a sound like breaking glass. Then it went silent. Emotions flooded into her like water through a broken dam. Fear so strong it made her physically sick. Rage so hot it felt like fire in her veins. Love for her daughter so powerful it made her chest hurt. She gasped and grabbed the edge of her seat. After 12 years of feeling nothing, feeling everything was overwhelming. Around her, other humans were having the same reaction. Dampeners were failing throughout the chamber. Parents were crying, shouting, holding each other. Years of suppressed emotion were breaking free all at once. Minyu appeared beside her. His dampener was offline too. She could see real fury in his eyes. "The Council won't save them," he said quietly. "You know that, right?" Nodded. She couldn't speak, couldn't think past the storm of emotions. "So what are we going to do about it?" Minyu asked. She looked at him. Through the fear and rage, one thought was crystal clear. She was going to get her daughter back. The Council could expel humanity. They could declare war. None of it mattered. "We're going to save them ourselves," said. Her voice was shaking, but it was her real voice now, not the flat, controlled voice the dampener had created. "We're going to get our children back." Minyu nodded. "I was hoping you'd say that." That night couldn't sleep. She lay in bed next to both of them awake, both of them feeling too much. The dampener at the base of her skull was completely silent now, dead, and she was terrified, but she was also more alive than she'd been in 12 years. "They're going to call us criminals," whispered, "if we do this." "I don't care. Earth might lose its seat on the Council." "I don't care." He turned to look at her. In the darkness, she could see tears on his face, real tears. "What if we fail?" Reached out and took his hand. "Then we fail trying, but I won't sit here for 8 weeks hoping the Council saves her. I'm her mother. That's my job." The next morning, called a meeting of all the human parents whose children were on the satellite. 23 families gathered in a private room in the human district. All of their dampeners had failed. The room was full of raw, uncontrolled human emotion for the first time in 73 years. Stood before them. "The Council won't save our children in time. We all know it. So I'm going to ask you a question and I need you to answer honestly. Who's coming with me to get them back?" Every hand in the room went up. The room was silent after all the hands went up. 23 families, 46 parents, all of them willing to risk everything for their children. Minyu stepped forward. "I need to be clear about what this means. The Council has forbidden any rescue attempt. If we do this, we're breaking the treaty. Earth could be expelled. We could be arrested. Some of us might die." "My daughter is 8 years old," said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were full of fire. "She's scared and alone with raiders who are threatening to kill her. I don't care what the Council says. I don't care what happens to me. I'm going." Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Felt something she hadn't felt in 12 years. Unity, purpose. These weren't just humans following rules anymore. They were parents protecting their children. A man near the back stood up. He was older, maybe 50, with scars on his hands. "My name is," he said. "I'm listed as a civilian engineer, but that's not what I really am." Everyone turned to look at him. "I was a military officer on Earth, special operations. When I came to Council Prime 15 years ago, I had to register as a civilian because of the treaty terms, but I never stopped training, never stopped being ready." He looked around the room. "And I'm not the only one." 3 more people stood up. 2 men and a woman, all with the same careful way of standing, the same alert eyes. "We're a cargo pilot, a communications technician, and a maintenance worker," the woman said. Her name was, on paper, "But we're all former military. We've been waiting for something like this." Minyu smiled for the first time in days. "How many others are there?" "In the human district, maybe 200 who still remember their training. Not many, but enough." Felt hope spark in her chest. Can we really do this? 12 parents and 200 civilians against professional raiders. Looked at her. Raiders aren't soldiers, they're bullies who prey on the weak. They've studied the files on humanity and they think we're soft now, controlled, harmless. His smile was cold. They're about to learn they're wrong. The planning began immediately, and a team of engineers studied the station's defensive grid. Council Prime had sensors and shields that would detect any unauthorized ships leaving, but had been maintaining those systems for 8 years. He knew their weaknesses. "I can create a 3-hour window," he said, showing them his calculations. "The grid will think it's running a diagnostic cycle. Any ships that launch during that window won't trigger alarms." 3 hours, Minyu said. "That's enough time to get to the satellite, but not much for the rescue itself." "Then we move fast," said. Volunteered her cargo ship. It was old and slow, but it had space for a team. Other civilians offered their ships too. Nothing military grade, just commercial vessels that happened to have human crews. Organized the assault plan. The satellite was large, with multiple sections. The children would be held in the educational wing, which was in the center of the structure. The raiders would have control of the docking bays and main corridors. "We need a distraction," said. "Something to pull their attention while the main team breaches the educational wing." "I'll do it," said one of the former military people. "Give me a small ship and I'll make them think we're attacking from the main entrance. While they're focused on me, the rest of you slip in through the maintenance hatches." It was a dangerous plan, would be exposed, drawing fire from the raiders, but he volunteered without hesitation. Found out about the plan 2 days before the launch. She came to his apartment late at night, her face grave. "I know what you're planning," she said quietly. Tensed, "Are you going to stop us?" "I should. As Earth's senior representative, I should report this to the Council immediately." Sat down heavily. "But I'm also a mother. My children are grown now, but I remember what it was like when they were young. I remember that feeling of needing to protect them no matter what." "So what are you going to do?" Was quiet for a long moment. "I'm going to make sure the Council doesn't find out until you're already gone. After that, I can't protect you. Earth's seat on the Council will be in jeopardy. There will be consequences." "I know. But you're going anyway." "Yes." Nodded slowly. "Then go get them, all of them, every child on that satellite." The night before the mission, couldn't sleep again. She sat by the window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was waiting, scared, maybe hurt, definitely wondering why her parents hadn't come for her yet. "I'm coming," whispered to the stars. "Hold on, baby, I'm coming." The launch window opened at 300 hours station time. 12 ships undocked from Council Prime in complete silence, slipping through the gap in the defensive grid that had created. Each ship carried a mix of parents and former military personnel. 47 people total, heading into unknown danger. Was on's cargo ship. The pilot flew with smooth confidence, her old military training showing in every maneuver. Minyu was there too, checking weapons. They had improvised guns made from mining equipment and construction tools. Nothing fancy, but they would work. The journey to the satellite took 6 hours. No one spoke much. Parents looked at photos of their children on personal devices. The former soldiers checked and rechecked their equipment, just sat and felt everything. Fear, determination, love so strong it hurt. They approached the satellite from the dark side, using the station's bulk to hide from sensors. Ship broke away from the group, heading for the main docking bay. The rest of the ships positioned themselves near maintenance hatches on the outer hull. "Ready?" Minyu asked over the communication channel. "Ready," came the replies from all the ships. "Then let's go get our kids." Ship appeared on the satellite's sensors, broadcasting a surrender message on all frequencies. The responded immediately, ordering him to dock. Instead, fired his improvised weapons at the docking bay doors. Not enough to cause real damage, but enough to get their attention. The raiders scrambled to respond to the attack. Alarms rang throughout the satellite. Soldiers rushed toward the main entrance, exactly as planned. While they were distracted, the other ships attached to maintenance hatches. Cutting torches burned through the locks. Teams poured into the satellite service corridors, moving fast and quiet. Was in the first team. She carried a simple metal rod that had sharpened into a weapon. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. Every step brought her closer to. They moved through dark corridors, following the building plans that had stolen from the station archives. The satellite's interior was designed for students, with wide hallways and bright colors. Now it felt like a nightmare, with flickering lights and the distant sound of gunfire from distraction. Led them through a series of maintenance tunnels. They could hear the raiders above, shouting in their harsh language, running toward the main entrance. The plan was working. They reached the educational wing. Through a grate in the floor, could see a large room full of children. 247 students from dozens of different species, huddled together in fear. And there, in the middle, was. His breath caught. Her daughter looked thin and scared, but she was alive. She was okay. 3 raiders were guarding the room. Large reptilian creatures with heavy weapons and armor. They looked bored, clearly not expecting any real rescue attempt. Made hand signals to his team. 3 targets, 3 shooters. They would fire simultaneously, taking out all the guards before any could raise an alarm. But before they could move, one of the raiders noticed the grate. His eyes went wide. He reached for his weapon. Didn't think. She kicked open the grate and dropped into the room, the metal rod in her hands. The raider turned toward her, surprise on his reptilian face. He was twice her size, trained and armed. She didn't care. The fight was brief and savage, had never been a soldier. She had no formal combat training. But she was a mother and her child was in danger. That made her more dangerous than any warrior. The raider went down. The other 2 turned toward her, raising their weapons. Then and his team dropped through the grate, firing their improvised guns. The guards fell. The children started crying and shouting, ran to dropping the metal rod, reaching for her daughter. Eyes went wide. "Mom." "I've got you," said, pulling her into a tight hug. "I've got you, baby, you're safe now." Around the room, other parents were reuniting with their children. Tears and laughter mixed with the smell of smoke and fear. Minyu was organizing the evacuation, getting the students moving toward the maintenance hatches. But then alarms started ringing. The raiders had realized what was happening. They were coming back. "Move," shouted, "everyone to the ships now." The teams herded the children through the corridors, running toward the escape routes. Behind them they could hear raiders shouting, weapons firing. Distraction had bought them time, but it was running out. Carried, refusing to let go. They reached the maintenance hatch where ship was waiting. Parents pushed children through the airlock, counting heads, making sure no one was left behind. 247 students, all accounted for, 0 casualties. The ships undocked and burned their engines hard, fleeing from the satellite. Behind them, the raiders scrambled to their own ships, but they were too slow. The humans had planned for speed, not combat. Council military vessels appeared on sensors, finally responding to the disturbance. Their commanders were broadcasting orders to stand down, to stop immediately. "Looked at, can you outrun them?" The pilot grinned, "Watch me." The cargo ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving Council space behind. The other human ships followed. Inside, parents held their children and cried with relief. Sat within her arms, feeling her daughter's heartbeat against her chest. Real, alive, safe. "You came for me," whispered. "Always," said. "I will always come for you, no matter what." The ships returned to Council Prime 12 hours after the rescue. As they approached the docking bays, they could see Council security vessels waiting. Armed guards stood at every entrance. This was not going to be a friendly welcome. Held close as they disembarked. The child was asleep now, exhausted from the ordeal. Around them, other parents carried their children or held their hands. All 247 students had been rescued, not a single casualty among them. But knew what was coming. They had broken every rule, violated the treaty, acted without authorization. In the Council's eyes, they were criminals. Commander M was waiting in the docking bay, surrounded by guards from multiple species. His stone face was harder than usual, showing what passed for fury in his kind. "Park, Minyu Lee, and all involved in this unauthorized action, you are under arrest." "The children are safe," said calmly. "That's all that matters. You have endangered Earth's position in the Council. You have violated treaty terms that were established for good reason. You have saved our kids," Minyu interrupted, "while you were planning to negotiate for 8 weeks. Guards moved forward to take them into custody, but then something unexpected happened. Other humans in the docking bay started moving closer, forming a protective circle around the rescue team. Not threateningly, but firmly. A wall of bodies between the parents and the guards. More humans arrived, engineers stopping their work, administrators leaving their offices. Within minutes, hundreds of humans had gathered. None of them spoke. They just stood there, showing solidarity. M looked around, clearly uncertain. He had guards, but not enough to handle hundreds of humans. Especially not now, when all their dampeners had failed and they were feeling unregulated emotions for the first time in decades. "Stand down," he ordered the guards. "We will handle this through proper channels." The humans dispersed slowly, reluctantly. Handed to, "Take her home. I need to face this." "Not alone," said. "Whatever happens, we face it together." An emergency council session was called. The chamber was packed with representatives from all 12 species, plus observers and media drones. This was the biggest crisis the council had faced in years. Stood in the center of the chamber. Minyu stood beside her, along with several other members of the rescue team. They were not in restraints, but armed guards surrounded them. M's voice echoed through the chamber. "The humans have committed serious crimes. They violated our direct orders. They engaged in military action without authorization. They have shown that humanity cannot be trusted to follow council law." "Because your law would have let our children die," said. "The children would have been returned through negotiation." "When in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, how many would have died while you negotiated?" "That is speculation. What is certain is that you have violated the terms that allow humanity's presence in council space. Therefore, I propose immediate expulsion of Earth from the Galactic Council and quarantine of the Sol system." The chamber erupted in noise, representatives arguing, debating, but noticed something. Not all of them were agreeing with M. A new voice spoke up. It belonged to Administrator As, the being who oversaw the educational satellite. "High Counselor, I must speak." The chamber quieted. "My daughter was on that satellite," As said. His voice was normally calm and logical, but now it shook with emotion. "For 9 days I waited while the council discussed options. For 9 days I trusted in proper procedure. And for 9 days my child was terrified and in danger." He turned to look directly at. "This human mother did what I could not. She broke your laws, yes, but she saved my daughter. She saved all our children." Another voice joined in. Counselor, a mammalian species representative. "My son was there too. When I heard about the rescue, I was angry at first. The humans had acted without permission. But then I thought, what would I have done? If my son was in danger and the council told me to wait for 8 weeks of negotiations, what would I have done? He looked around the chamber. I would have done exactly what Park did. Any parent would. More voices began speaking, not all supporting the humans, but enough to show that the council was divided. This wasn't the simple case of rule breaking that M wanted it to be. Stood up in the human section. The council needs to understand something. When humanity agreed to the neural dampeners, we thought we were becoming civilized. We thought we were controlling our dangerous emotions, but we weren't controlling them. We were just compressing them, hiding them, pretending they didn't exist. She gestured to and the other humans. And when our children were in danger, when every parent's worst nightmare became real, those emotions broke free. Not because we're violent or uncontrolled, but because we're parents. Love is stronger than any dampener. Fear for our children is more powerful than any treaty. M tried to regain control. Emotional appeals do not change the facts. Laws were broken. Consequences must follow. Then maybe your laws are wrong, a new voice said. Everyone turned. A ship had just arrived at Council Prime, broadcasting Earth government codes. Premier Song, the leader of Earth's government, walked into the chamber. She was a small woman in her 70s, but she carried herself with absolute authority. "I've come to speak for Earth," she said, "and to make an offer." M's stone face showed surprise. "An offer?" "Humanity will accept responsibility for the rescue mission. We broke your rules and we acknowledge that, but we will not apologize for saving our children. Instead, we propose a new arrangement." She activated a holographic display. "Earth requests a probationary period without neural dampeners. We will prove that humans can coexist in council space with full emotional capacity. We will establish protocols for emotional regulation that don't require technological suppression. If we commit any act of unprovoked aggression during this period, Earth will accept permanent expulsion." The chamber exploded in debate. Half the council members were shouting objections. The other half looked thoughtful. Crystal form pulsed rapidly. "This is unprecedented. The dampeners were required specifically because of human aggression." "Were they?" Premier asked. "Or were they required because you were afraid of emotions you didn't understand? Look at what happened. A mother's love broke through your technology. Is love really something to fear?" She turned to address the full council. "My species has a saying, the fiercest warrior is a mother protecting her young. Every species in this chamber understands that, not because it's a human trait, because it's a universal truth." Doctor, the neuroscientist who had designed the dampener technology, stood up in the observation gallery. "May I speak?" he asked. M nodded, clearly off balance from all the interruptions. Approached the center of the chamber. "I created the neural dampeners. I thought they were suppressing human emotion, but I was wrong. They were just compressing it like putting a lid on a boiling pot. The pressure builds and builds until something breaks." He pulled out data files and displayed them for everyone to see. When Park's dampener failed, it sent out a resonance signal. That signal triggered a cascade failure in every dampener on Council Prime. 30 million devices all failing within hours. Why? He looked at, because a mother's instinct to protect her child is so powerful that it overwhelmed the technology. And that signal, that pure emotional broadcast, it resonated with every other parent. It said, "Our children are in danger," and every human responded. Turned back to the council. "You didn't neuter humanity with the dampeners. You just taught us to bottle our emotions for 73 years, and when the bottle broke, you saw what we really are." "Dangerous," M said. "No," replied, "human, fully, completely human, emotions and all." Counselor spoke up again. "My species once used similar technology. We suppressed our crystalline resonances because other species found them disturbing. We became muted, controlled, acceptable. His crystal body pulsed with a color the chamber had never seen before, deep red like blood, and we nearly destroyed ourselves. A species without emotion is not civilized. It's dead. We removed our suppressors 2 centuries ago and reconnected with who we really are. It was the best decision we ever made. He looked at, the humans have shown us something important today. They reminded us that being civilized doesn't mean being emotionless. It means feeling everything and still choosing to do the right thing. M was clearly losing control of the chamber. Representatives were arguing, debating, some even showing emotions that their species normally kept hidden. This rescue had done more than save children. It had challenged the very foundation of council philosophy. "We need to vote," M finally said. "The question is simple. Does humanity remain in the council without neural dampeners, or does Earth face expulsion?" "Wait," said. "Before we vote, I want Park to speak. She's the one who started this. Let her explain why." M looked like he wanted to refuse, but too many other council members were nodding in agreement. "Very well. Park, you may address the council." Stepped forward. Her legs were shaking. She had never been good at public speaking, but she thought of, safe now because of what they had done, and the fear faded. "You call human rage dangerous," she said. "You're right. You say we're too emotional, too violent. Maybe we are, but you forgot something." She looked at each council member, one by one. "A mother's love is stronger than rage, fiercer than violence, more powerful than any weapon. I would burn this entire galaxy to ashes to save my child. Every parent in this chamber would do the same for theirs." She gestured to the other humans. "We didn't come here asking to be accepted. We came because we had no choice. You said we had to change who we are to join your civilization. So we did. We cut out our hearts and replaced them with machines. And for 73 years, we pretended it was working." Her voice grew stronger. But it wasn't working. We were dying inside, becoming something hollow and empty. And when our children needed us, when they needed real parents with real emotions, the machines broke. Not because we're flawed, because we're alive. The chamber was completely silent now. "So here's what I'm asking," continued. "Don't judge us for having emotions. Judge us for what we do with them. We felt fear and we acted to protect. We felt love and we risked everything. Is that really so wrong?" She stepped back, her part done. The vote was called. It was close. 6 species voted for expulsion. 5 voted to accept humanity without dampeners. The deciding vote fell too. He stood slowly, looking then at the other humans in the chamber. "My vote is yes. Let humanity stay. Let them teach us how to feel again." The chamber remained silent after his vote. 6-6. A tie. In council law, a tied vote meant the proposal passed by default, but barely. Earth would remain in the council, and humans would no longer be required to wear neural dampeners. But it was the closest decision in council history. M stood from his seat, his stone face showing what might have been resignation. "The vote has been cast. Humanity's probationary period begins immediately. Any act of unprovoked aggression will result in immediate expulsion. This session is adjourned." As the council members filed out, Felt's hand on her shoulder. He had been standing in the observation area with. Now they came down to join her. "You did it," he whispered. "We did it," corrected. She knelt down to level. "Are you okay, baby?" Nodded. She looked tired, older somehow than she had 2 weeks ago. "Mom, the other kids on the satellite, they were so scared. But when you came, when all the parents came, they said they'd never seen anything like it." "Like what?" "Like people fighting that hard to save someone. Some of the alien kids said their species don't do that. They said their parents would have waited for the council to negotiate." Pulled her daughter close. Every parent loves their child, but maybe some species have forgotten how to show it. Over the next few days, the reality of the new situation became clear. 30 million humans throughout Council space were now living without neural dampeners for the first time in their adult lives. Some adapted quickly, embracing the return of real emotions. Others struggled, overwhelmed by feelings they had forgotten existed. The Council established monitoring stations to watch for any signs of human aggression, but instead of violence, they saw something else. Humans laughing in the streets, couples showing real affection, artists creating work with genuine passion instead of mechanical precision. The human district transformed from a quiet, orderly place into something vibrant and alive. There were problems too. Arguments broke out more frequently. Some humans cried in public. A few got into fights over minor disagreements, but these incidents were no worse than what happened in districts of other species. Humans were emotional, yes, but they were also learning to manage those emotions without suppression. Was summoned to a private meeting with Counselor 1 week after the vote. She expected more warnings or conditions. Instead, she found him in a small observation room, watching the stars. "When my species removed our emotional suppressors," he said without preamble, "there was chaos at first. We had forgotten how to feel. Some of us went too far, became overwhelmed. It took time to find balance." "Are you saying humans will have the same problem?" "I'm saying it's natural. Emotions are like muscles. If you don't use them, they atrophy. Your species has been emotionally atrophied for 3 generations. You need time to remember how to feel properly." He turned to face her, his crystal body pulsing with gentle blue light. "The Council should have learned from our experience. We should never have required the dampeners in the first place. We were afraid of something we didn't understand." "Human rage," said quietly. "No, human passion. Your species feels everything so intensely. Love, fear, joy, anger. It's overwhelming to species like us who experience emotions more subtly. We mistook intensity for danger." Moved closer to the window. "But watching you rescue your daughter, I understood something. The same passion that made ancient humans fierce in war is the same passion that makes you fierce in love. You can't separate them. They're 2 sides of the same coin." "So what happens now?" "Now you teach us. The Council has agreed that humanity will establish emotional education programs for all member species. You'll help us understand what we've been suppressing in ourselves." Blinked in surprise. "You want humans to teach aliens about emotions?" "Who better? You've lived both ways, with dampeners and without. You understand the difference." 3 months later, the first Emotional Wellness Center opened on Council Prime. Found herself teaching classes on emotional regulation without technology. The students were from all 12 Council species, curious beings who wanted to understand this thing called feeling. "Emotions aren't weaknesses," she told her first class. "They're signals. Fear tells you to be careful. Anger tells you something is wrong. Joy tells you to appreciate the moment. The key is listening to them without being controlled by them." A young crystalline student raised a limb. "But how do you control anger without suppressors?" "You don't control it," explained. "You acknowledge it. You say, 'I'm angry because this situation is unfair.' Then you decide how to respond. Sometimes anger motivates you to fix problems. Sometimes you need to walk away and calm down first. But either way, you're making a choice instead of just reacting." The classes were popular. More and more Council members signed up, wanting to learn this human approach to emotion. It wasn't about suppression or control. It was about integration, making emotions part of decision-making instead of obstacles to overcome. Started school again, this time in a mixed class with students from multiple species. She was different now, quieter and more thoughtful. The experience on the satellite had changed her, but she was also more confident, knowing that her parents would move mountains to keep her safe. One evening, came home to find doing homework with son. The young mammalian was helping with mathematics while she helped him with art. "Mom," called out, "Dad wants to talk to you." appeared on their communication screen. Ambassador Park, thank you for taking time to speak with me. Of course, how can I help? My son has nightmares about the satellite, about the raiders. I've tried to comfort him using traditional methods, but they're not working. I wondered if you might have suggestions. Thought about it. What are your traditional methods? Logical reasoning, explaining that the danger has passed, that probability of recurrence is low. Statistics about safety. That's the problem, said gently. Nightmares aren't logical, they're emotional. When has bad dreams, I don't give her statistics. I hold her. I tell her she's safe. I let her talk about her fears until they feel smaller. Was quiet for a moment. That seems inefficient. Emotions aren't efficient, but they need to be processed, not just dismissed with logic. If needs to cry, let him cry. If he needs to talk about what scared him, listen. Eventually, the nightmares will fade because he's dealt with the fear, not just suppressed it. I see. This is difficult for my species to understand. I know, but you voted for humanity to stay in the council. You said we could teach you about emotions. This is part of that teaching. Being a parent means dealing with messy, inefficient feelings, both yours and your child's. After the call ended, sat beside on their couch. You're becoming the galaxy's therapist, he said with a smile. I'm just trying to help. These species have been running from emotions for so long, they've forgotten that feelings are part of life. Like we did with the dampeners. Exactly. 6 months after the rescue, M requested a private meeting with. She approached his office with some nervousness. The High Counselor had voted against humanity remaining in the council. He had been the strongest voice for expulsion. His office was stark and minimal, like his personality. He gestured for her to sit. Ambassador Park, I owe you an acknowledgement, he said without preamble. I was wrong about humanity. Said nothing, waiting. When your species first joined the council, I studied your history. I saw your wars, your violence, your seemingly uncontrollable emotions. I believed the dampeners were necessary to protect the galaxy from human aggression. He paused, but I was viewing everything through the lens of my own species. My kind experiences emotions slowly, if at all. We process information logically. When we saw humans acting from emotion, we saw chaos and danger. And now I see passion. I see species who care so deeply about things that they're willing to fight for them, not always wisely, but always genuinely. He stood and looked out his window at Council Prime. The council has become stagnant. We avoid all conflict through suppression and negotiation. We've become so focused on maintaining peace that we've forgotten how to actually live. He turned back to her. Your rescue of those children was illegal. It violated every protocol, but it was also brave, selfless, and right. The council should have acted immediately. Instead, we chose procedure over children's lives. That's not civilization. That's cowardice. What are you saying? Asked. I'm saying that humanity's probationary period is unnecessary. I will propose at the next session that Earth be granted full membership status without conditions. You've already proven what you needed to prove. Felt something warm in her chest. Hope, thank you. Don't thank me. You did this yourself. You showed the galaxy that being emotional doesn't mean being dangerous. It just means being alive. 1 year after the rescue, a ceremony was held in the council chamber. All 12 species gathered, along with hundreds of observers. Premier stood beside, both wearing formal diplomatic robes. M addressed the assembly. 1 year ago, humanity violated council law to rescue their children from raiders. Today, we acknowledge that those actions, while unauthorized, demonstrated the highest ideals of civilization: courage, sacrifice, and love. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's flag. Therefore, the Council unanimously votes to grant humanity full, unrestricted membership. No probation, no conditions, No neural dampeners required. The chamber erupted in applause, not just from humans, but from all species. Even the ones who had initially voted against humanity were showing approval. After the ceremony, found standing by one of the observation windows. "We did it," the older woman said quietly. "You risked your career to protect us," replied. "I never thanked you properly for that." "You don't need to thank me. I'm a diplomat, yes, but before that I'm human. I understand what it means to protect the people you love." They stood together, watching ships come and go from Council Prime's docking bays. Ships from Earth, ships from a dozen alien, all traveling freely through a galaxy that was finally learning to accept differences. That evening, returned to her apartment, was cooking dinner while did homework at the table. It was an ordinary scene but felt its significance. 1 year ago they had been living half-lives, their emotions suppressed, their humanity dampened. Now they were fully alive. Looked up from her homework. "Mom, my teacher wants me to write about what happened, about the rescue." "What will you say?" "I don't know yet. It was scary, but it was also amazing. Watching all those parents come for us, even though they weren't soldiers, even though it was dangerous." She bit her lip. The other kids didn't understand why humans would risk so much for children who weren't even related to them. Sat beside her daughter. "What did you tell them?" "I said that's just what humans do. We don't leave anyone behind, especially not kids." "That's good, but I think there's more to it than that." "Like what?" "We rescue each other because we understand that we're all connected. Your fear is my fear. Your pain is my pain. When you were on that satellite, every human parent felt like their own child was in danger, because in a way, you all are our children." "Thought about this. So the whole species is like one big family." "Something like that. We feel what others feel. That's both our weakness and our strength." Later, after was asleep, stood on their apartment balcony. The stars were bright tonight, thousands of them visible through the station's transparent dome. Each one represented worlds, civilizations, species with their own ways of thinking and feeling. Joined her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" "About how far we've come. A year ago I could barely feel anything. Now I feel everything. Joy, fear, love, worry, all of it at once." "Is it better?" "Yes, even the scary parts, even the painful parts, because it's real. I'm real again." They stood together in comfortable silence. Below them, the human district was alive with activity. Music playing, people laughing, children running through the streets. All of it messy and emotional and perfectly, beautifully human. "Do you think understands what we did?" asked. "What it meant?" "Maybe not fully, not yet, but someday she will. She'll understand that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice. It's action. It's being willing to risk everything for the people who matter." "Like burning down the galaxy," said with a small smile, remembering her speech to the council. "Exactly like that." Somewhere in the station, other parents were tucking their children into bed. Other families were sharing meals and stories. Other beings were learning that emotions weren't weaknesses to suppress, but strengths to embrace. The galaxy had changed, not overnight and not completely. There were still species who didn't understand humans, still council members who feared emotion, still challenges ahead. But the foundation had shifted. The council had learned that different didn't mean dangerous, that passion could coexist with reason, that sometimes the most terrifying force in the universe was also the most necessary one. A mother's love, fierce enough to break through any barrier, strong enough to challenge any authority, powerful enough to change an entire galaxy. Looked up at the stars and smiled, was safe, Earth was free. Humanity could finally be fully human again. Whatever challenges came next, they would face them together with all their messy, beautiful emotions intact. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly how it should be.